And welcome, Hoosier Nation, to our 32nd episode of The Hoosier Sound, where our show has one main goal to give you our perspective of IU sports from the point of view as a student or young adult. In addition, we will also give our view on hot takes from around the world of sports. We are recording this edition on Tuesday evening, April 26th, where I am your host, Noah Freeman, and I am with my usual cohort, Matt Lukens. We'll be going live every Tuesday evening normally at 8:30 p.m. When Matt does not have a concert. But if you miss us live, you can subscribe to various networks so you can listen on your own time. Check out our social media and subscribe. All the information is in our website, thehoosiersound.com. All right, Hoosier Nation, it is time for some sports talk. And tonight, the one and only topic, well, maybe not the only, but basically the only topic that we are discussing tonight is Romeo Langford, because I'm sure most of you have heard by now, since a lot of this about a week later, more details came up, that Romeo has now posted the time, the place, where, what, when, all that kind of stuff of when he is going to announce. And he has finally set a date for Monday, April 30th at 7 p.m. East Coast time at his high school gym in New Albany, and it is open to the public. So in 13 days at now, we will know where Romeo is going, whether it's Kansas, Vanderbilt, or IU. So Matt, just like we talked about last time, these podcasts, at least recently, are kind of just speculating because the Langfords have done an incredible job of keeping everything close, of what they think their decision is. But Matt, just thinking of speculating his decision time, place, and all that kind of stuff, what are your opening thoughts on all of that?
I think it's been a long process, especially as an IU fan who's kind of enveloped in the madness, as it might be called. But I feel like it's going to be worth it in the end. And even if he doesn't choose IU, let's say he chooses Vanderbilt, which I don't think is very likely at this point, but if he does, right, because you have to expect the worst, you're still going to have to root for him. Like, he's one of the best high school kids in the history of Indiana. And he's like a fantastic kid. Like, if you had told me in high school that I would have to sit after my basketball games for like hours and sign autographs, I would have. Well, first off, I didn't play basketball because I wasn't good enough. Second off, if I was good enough, there still was no way I was going to do that, even though that kind of sounds fun. And yeah, I want to give back to my community or whatever, but like, that's a lot of work. And he goes out of his way to represent his community. And the big thing about April 30th, well, I don't think people are talking about too much in Louisville, that's Derby weekend. April 30th is Derby weekend down there, which is when the festivities for the Kentucky Derby start to pick up, especially since it's almost the month of May, and that's in the month of May. And then that community gets really excited. So that's the first weekend that people get there, the horses get there, the track opens, whatnot. So it's a big deal that he's doing it on April 30th. So I think it's special. Soak it in, because there's not many recruitments like this, and there's a lot of people in the state of Indiana like there's nothing like this since Damon Bailey. And if you don't know who Damon Bailey is, I think there's a little short 30 for 30 on him that you can go watch. But just, it's nuts. He sold out high school gyms the same way Romeo did. So,
yeah, I agree. And so we're going to start getting into some of the speculation talk, because like you said, first, wherever he goes, I think everyone should follow him, even if he goes to Kansas or Vanderbilt, even because he's been such a great kid. He says basically that when everyone asks him questions or something like that with the media, he'll say like, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, no, no, ma'am, no, sir, that kind of stuff. He's very polite. He'll always talk to people. He'll, like Matt said, he'll always go to He'll stay hours and hours after basketball games to try and sign autographs, take pictures with babies, that kind of cliche kind of stuff. And he always does it. He never says no. He'll wait, like Matt said, 2.5 hours after. He doesn't turn anyone away. He waits until the line is gone. That's when he leaves, is when the line is completely gone and everyone has left. And he's even done things like I read there's a great I don't personally like Bleacher Report very much, but there's a great article that they put out about Romeo's past, with how there was I think it was a 5-year-old kid that his mom passed away, I think from cancer or something like that. And at the funeral, he said his one wish was to just see Romeo Langford, and Romeo Langford went to that funeral to see that kid, and it made that kid's day. It made it all the worthwhile. He's such a great kid. Usually you don't see that kind of high schooler. Usually you kind of see just hey, it's all about me kind of stuff. But I think we need to support him whatever happens, because we're not going to talk about Romeo until the decision's out. So basically, if 2 weeks from now we're not talking about him as a Hoosier, it'll be okay. But let's start speculating, because that's what podcasts, that's what we like to do. So obviously, as an Indiana fan, taking away first that we'll get into this with the 24/7 rankings and all that kind of stuff first, which have been changing very rapidly, very recently. You got to think. First, he was saying with all of these recruiting stuff that he wanted to do it in New Albany. That was the very first step, that he wanted to do it in New Albany. Then he's like, oh, maybe I want to get the mayor involved. And later we learned that actually that was his father saying that. And he was like, no, Dad, we don't want to do that. And that he just wanted to have it just in his high school gym. So he set a date, found it in a high school gym, and then all of us are like, all right, well, is it going to be open to the public, or is it not going to be open to public, for 2 reasons. The first, if it's open to the public, obviously every single IU fan, that gym is probably going to be packed. It's probably going to have 3,000 people just for basically a silly little announcement where he's going to go to college. And I think that's incredible. They're probably going to be like vendors outside doing all this kind of stuff just for literally someone announcing where they're going to college. But then the other side, if it was a closed door space, basically Romeo was saying he didn't want fans and everyone in there. He just wanted media and just close people in there. So obviously you could speculate that if it was closed, Romeo might be going one way or another, because he might not want some of the boos and some of the IU fans to get upset at him. But since it's open door, I think it's hard not to be at least optimistic about Romeo picking IU with just the amount of IU fans that are going to be there.
Yeah. Is he not announcing with the mayor? I thought he was announcing with the mayor. I read somewhere that was actually happening. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Either way, it's open to the public, which was like the first key step. I wouldn't read too much. Here we are reading into it. I wouldn't read too much into it, but because he's going to have his loyal New Albany people there anyway, who are going to root for him no matter where he goes.
Mm-hmm.
But he has to think that if he opens it up to the public, probably a good chance that some IU fans like moi are going to try to make it down to New Albany to see the announcement. So
yeah, exactly.
The stupid little announcement, but I still want to go see it. So
yeah, exactly. And if he is there, we'll actually see if we can get some Twitter coverage from there and everything, if Matt ends up making it down. But that's where we are, and we're not going to find any information out, because when he was at the McDonald's All-American game, they interviewed, because obviously the media is that good at trying to pick and prod literally every single person instead of, because Romeo's not going to give you anything. So what did they do? The media went to all of his friends and all of the outside people that maybe that Romeo slipped.
They asked him where they thought he was going to go. The Vanderbilt people said Vanderbilt. The Kansas people said Kansas.
Almost all of the Kansas people said Kansas.
Almost all of them did. A couple of them said Kansas or Indiana.
Uh-huh.
And then, bunch of other random people said Indiana. So
exactly. Yeah, it was that was what good insight we have there. But
also 24/7 does a crystal ball prediction, which is basically like a bunch of their experts pick exactly where they think that the player is going to go. So I think Romeo's up to 71% for Indiana out of 100, which is really good. And a lot of the top analysts, especially Jerry Meyer, who's the guy that runs basketball and recruiting at 24/7, switched his pick from Vanderbilt to Indiana. It was originally Indiana, he switched to Vanderbilt. Now it's back to Indiana. So that's a good sign, but it's not 100%, obviously, because they don't know most things. But and especially if you go and look at the Zion Williamson commitment, they had absolutely no idea where he went. And I think 5% had him to going to Duke, and he ended up going to Duke, and everybody's like, what? So not 100%, but it's a good sign. Also, Jerry Meyer said on his Twitter account that sources told him, I don't know what the sources are, but he said sources told him that it's a lock that he's going to Indiana.
Do you want to say who Jerry Meyer is?
Jerry Meyer is the director of scouting for 24/7 Sports. And he's basically like, he's one of the best people to follow on Twitter or on social media or anywhere on the internet that knows anything about basketball recruiting. So there's that.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a couple different things about Romeo. So that's where we're at. We're not going to find anything else out, like we said, until a couple weeks from now. But good old Twitter likes to talk about things. And so Matt and I were talking about this.
Don't tweet at recruits.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it actually looks like first we have a question, and we're just going to answer it online. And we ask, we got asked basically who we think lands Romeo, just from our perspective.
I'm slightly biased, but I think it's looking in that direction. Also, I think his girlfriend's coming here, and she committed to be a volleyball player. I don't know how solid that information is, but somebody told me that. So don't shoot the messenger. But I heard that was a thing. So
do you want to give your as best as unbiased opinion as you can for why?
Sure. His parents want him to stay close to home. I think if Louisville didn't have the problems that he'd be at Louisville. He's been a homer most of his life. He chose to, stay in high school, and he could have gone to IMG Academy in Florida and been, maybe even the #1 player in the class if he plays at that prep school, gone to Huntington Prep, any of the prep schools. He could have gone, he had his choice. He chose to stay and play at New Albany and play Indiana high school basketball. Even his AAU program, he had his choice. He could have gone and played for any of the big AAU programs across the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
He stayed at 22 Elite, which is just like I think it's like a Northern Kentucky AAU grassroots program, Adidas, which of course is in the top Adidas league. But even then, he's not that far from home. He's not playing with people that are, in California and Arizona and wherever they are playing basketball. So he's always been that. And he also idolizes LeBron James. LeBron James is his favorite player. He looks up to LeBron. What does LeBron do? LeBron plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers, his hometown team, reps his hometown, kid from Akron, plays for Cleveland. So I think that all factors in. I think he thinks about that too. Also, I think he looks at what Trae Young did to his draft prospects. Trae Young, if you don't remember last year for his recruitment, I think Trae Young was in like the 20s. He was a 5-star, but he's like a low 5-star. And he's now going to be the top 10 draft pick this year. So
Probably.
For staying home. So I also think that has helped a lot. And then also I think Vanderbilt's woes this year did not help the program. And it's not that the recent FBI investigation into Kansas hurt his chances, but it does make it a little bit suspicious. And so
it just
it
adds more food for
doesn't.
thought,
It
basically.
definitely doesn't help to have that come up as you're trying
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
recruit of his caliber. So unbiasedly, those would be the reasons why. I can give you the reasons why for Vanderbilt, Kansas too, because I've thought this out. But
Exactly. Yeah. And why he also, I guess, we did forget to mention this. Why he picked April 30th. He basically just picked a date at the end of the month that it was you got to think that it wasn't 100% arbitrary or anything, but he basically picked a date to try and say that he wanted to set a date so that he could give himself a timetable, because he says he doesn't have a decision yet. And I believe him, honestly. I believe that he doesn't have a concrete decision just yet. But he basically was like, so he's forced to give a decision. So that's basically why.
I feel like he's leaning one way or the other. That's why people are like, we have sources saying this or we have sources saying that. But does he know? No, I don't think he knows yet. I don't think he knows until he's going to put the pen on the paper 100% that he's going somewhere.
Yeah. But I'll give you my opinion as well. And you know what? It would have, honestly, I was not leaning this way a few weeks ago. So it's literally recent events and just the way things have been spinning out. And I'm going to say, obviously, as a Hoosier podcast, we're going to want him to come there. But I'm honestly leaning more towards Romeo right now than I was recently. Just looking at a lot of people's speculations, a lot of very high-end people. Again, you can't really get into like the 24/7 people that try and predict it as much, just because obviously everyone is wrong, and Romeo has done one of the best jobs of keeping it as close to the chest as possible. But there are now a lot of people that are switching towards Romeo that even at the beginning of the recruiting said IU had literally a 0% chance. A lot of people are very much moving over towards towards IU. And you talked about the director of recruiting, basically, that someone mentioned that that he's almost never wrong, and then someone was like, oh well, he got Zion wrong, or no, it was Darius. He got Zarius wrong, and then someone was like, no, he switched at the very last second. So he's actually a very good source to look at all of this. And right now, even 2 days ago, it was not at 71% for IU for people that have been picking. It was more towards about 50% and about 30% for the other two.
It's still good, but yeah, IU definitely has jumped in the last couple of days, which I think is something to say for the fact that I think some people are actually getting some information about this. I think it's now starting to maybe leak, maybe Romeo saying something to his friends, or, something like that. And somebody says something to somebody else, and somebody says something to somebody else that's in the media, and that person tells Jerry. So, I mean, hey, he could end up picking Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Don't look at the numbers and go, oh. But look at the numbers and go, oh. But wait a second here. We had like a 0% chance with Tom Crean. We get a new staff about 13 months ago, and in 13 months, we have made up ground on the best recruit in the state since Greg Odom.
But for my pick, it is right now Indiana. Like I said, it wasn't even last week, honestly. It's been literally the past week. I've been shifting more towards actually believing that Indiana is the head team. And I think staying home is I think it's going to be a huge thing for him. He's seen how much the community cares for him. He sees how much, obviously, he's a great player, and IU fans are selfish. They want to get better, but he's just such a nice guy that he knows if he goes to IU, he's going to be that hometown hero kind of person that everyone's going to look up to him. If he goes to Kansas or Vanderbilt, he's just going to be another guy. I know that's not high on his list. Basically, he really is looking for a coach that's going to develop him and a chance to compete next year. But I think that plays a lot. And I think going to Indiana, hour and a half or whatever it is to 2 hours away from home, his family's going to be able to see him.
Yep.
That's a huge deal for someone that they're such a family person. Like this would not be so close to the chest if they were not a good solid family, him and his two sisters and his parents. I think that's a huge thing for him and everyone else that whatever extended relatives I think are in New Albany. I think that's going to really play a part. That just, man, his family could go see him for every game, like very easily. Obviously, they'd make it to more Vanderbilt games than Kansas games, and they go to a lot of games because they would get ways to get over there. But I think that's such a big part of him, and that's such a part of his personality.
Yeah.
That I think that's going to play such a big part.
Definitely.
All of it. So, we've said that, obviously, cross our fingers. But let's talk about some hot topics that are hot on Twitter. Maybe they're not really hot, but the first question that I've seen is that Matt and I were really discussing about, and this is not necessarily what I think or what Matt thinks, but this is what was being talked about on Twitter, which is, and I'm going to, before Matt chimes in, I am going to give my full explanation, because there is two sides. Whether the other side is very valid or not is one thing, but basically is Romeo going to help or hurt the team? And of course you would think, obviously it's 100% yes, it would help the team, but the side that I've been hearing is that so a good example is Deron Davis basically this year. So Deron had obviously an incredible player, but once we lost a key player in this cog, whether it was well oiled or not, basically is a different story. But we lost one position. We lost our center position, and what did the team do? They basically were able to play more as a team instead of going through one or two people. And the hot topic, maybe not very hot topic, but the point that other people were trying to make is, oh, well, if Romeo comes, is it going to be like way too much? Just is the offense going to 100% run through him, and that like if he gets injured, everything's going to fall apart? Or are we just going to rely on him too much and that kind of stuff? But I know this irks Matt, and it does me too. But this is what we're here for. So Matt. Now you can chime in for forever.
All right. So if you are one of these people that think Romeo is going to hurt the team, all right.
Maybe not hurt it, but like maybe like we would be okay without him, basically.
All right. You sit down in your chair. If you're watching, sit down. I need you to listen to me. We don't have a shooting guard. We don't have a two guard. Romeo fills that void. We need one. So it doesn't matter if we play offense through him or not. If he gets injured, it's going to hurt the team anyway, because we don't have a two guard. We don't have somebody that can fill that role. We don't have shooters on the team. So it doesn't matter if we're going to play too much through him. We need to play through him. Like, we need him. We need a scorer on the outside. Robert Johnson was the scorer on the outside last year. Robert Johnson is not as good as Romeo Langford. Okay? He's not as good. Even a high schooler is better than Robert Johnson. And I love Robert Johnson. Don't get me wrong. But Romeo's going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. Okay? If you think a top 5 pick in the NBA draft is going to hurt our team, you need to reevaluate your life choices.
That's even like for 1 year.
Right. Yeah. That's like saying, like, should I get regular batteries or rechargeable batteries? Well, you should get the regular batteries because they're cheaper, but rechargeable batteries, you only need to buy one pair and you never have to worry about them ever again. It's dumb. You get the rechargeable batteries if you can get them. Don't get the regular batteries if the rechargeable batteries are the same price. The same price. Romeo. No Romeo. I'd rather have Romeo. Don't even think about it. You're thinking too much into it.
Yeah.
I don't know why I went with batteries. That was the first thing that came in my head. Actually, there's a battery on my desk. That's why I went into that.
There you go. Yeah. You saw the battery right away in those. Oh. All right. I don't even remember all the stuff that I was seeing, but what about, and I know the answer to this, you know the answer to this. I've listened to a lot of different things and seen a lot of it, but what about Romeo's defense? He's Obviously, he can shoot and score, but can he do anything else basically other than play defense?
Yes, he can play defense. He's got the wingspan to play defense. Reason he didn't play too much defense in high school, people are like, oh my gosh, did you see that last possession in the game, title winning game? Because if he fouls there, he fouls out of the game. So he can't foul. So he was just there to kind of challenge the shot because he's almost the tallest player on the court. So like, no, he's gonna play defense. He'll be fine. We don't have to worry about if he fouls out of a game. Well, first off, we're probably going to lose. But second off, like if he's fouled that much, like we're probably losing anyway. So I don't know. Some people like he's not going to play defense. Like he's going to be able to play defense a lot better, especially when he's actually playing it in a college defensive system with people that actually also play defense with him. So
yeah, and Archie also is obviously known for his defense as of last year, how the defense just completely shifted. So yeah, I agree, especially with defense. What about we did defense. What about anything other than shooting the ball? Can he actually pass the ball?
Yes. Hello. I think he averaged I averaged 3 or 4 assists, maybe even 5 assists. I don't know. I don't know what his exact stat like, but he definitely averages more than 2 assists a game in high school basketball, and he's a really underrated passer of the ball, especially since he's been double and triple teamed his entire life now, basically.
Yeah,
so,
literally. Probably even quadruple teamed on purpose at some points.
Yeah. Well, literally, I think there was a game this year that he played against. I think it was Jefferson County, Jefferson City, something like that. Jefferson, I don't know, some high school team in Indiana. There's a picture of 4 guys all running towards Romeo when he caught the ball on the block. So like, he's used to this. He passes well. He's a good passer. I don't think you need to anything offensively. Literally anything on the basketball court at all, Romeo Langford can do. There's a reason why he's a top 10 recruit, okay? Top 10 recruits don't often bust. And even when they do bust, they're still pretty decent. Like, the last top 10 recruit I can remember that really was a bust was Skal Labissiere at Kentucky. And even when he was a bust, he still averaged like 10 and 10. So, like, people get so upset over the little minor details or think like something like the world is ending. I don't know. Calm down, people. He'll be fine. He's going to be the best player on our team next year if he comes. So,
all right, I've got 2 questions because we do have someone actually chatting with us in the chat, which I think is great. Shout out to Jeremy Stanton. But first, I have, and I'm totally going to steal this from the assembly call. If you don't listen to them, go listen to them. They're great. But they had a question on, I think it was last week's show, that I want to get Matt's opinion for. So, would you rather have Juwan back for his senior year as a senior leader, basically, because this is off the premises of him going to the NBA or not? Would you rather have Juwan for his senior year or Romeo for the one and done year? If you could only have one or the other, basically. I thought that was a huge question.
Oh my goodness. Of course I'd really want that senior leader, but if I'm gonna be honest, I don't think Jerome Hunter is that far off from
or Justin Smith.
Or Justin Smith is that far off of a backup or like a secondary option to Juwan. So yeah, obviously there's gonna be a big hole if Juwan's not there. But for the future of the program, it would be kind of nice to play somebody at the 4 there that's not Juwan, because Juwan's only going to be there next year. Yeah. So if Juwan leaves, it's like, all right, let's play somebody for the future. And then let's have 1 year of Romeo where it's like we get national coverage and like he maybe scores like 40 points in a game and it's fun to watch and they play good offense. I'd rather have Romeo. And it's a close decision, but I'd rather have Romeo.
That's what the consensus was, without spoiling too much stuff. That was what most people were thinking. And the only thing I'll have to say about Juwan is that the only thing you just really, really, really have to think about is if you're at least a IU basketball fan of at least 5 or 6 years, unless you're like a year or two into it. You know what happened when Yogi Ferrell was here, just the kind of leadership he showed, and even his second, but then third and fourth years here. And then what happened after he left, just how we literally had 0 people with senior leadership, and how um, we would have probably gone extremely far if we had someone just running the court, being able to help Thomas Bryant and stuff like that. But that's the only thing, like, I think that is just humongous that Romeo is never going to be able to top, is just a senior leader that could just take something. And whether you always need that one person, we talked about this on the episode about the NCAA tournament, and how both Villanova and Michigan, the aspects of them getting to the championship, how IU can emulate so that they can get there themselves. We talked about having that one guy that can literally just be, all right, coach, I got this. I'm going to score. I'm going to get this out of this funk. That's a guy that's Juwan Morgan basically next year. So that's the only thing I can see, but I agree. It's so close. And I think at the end of the day, if I had to put money or something on it, I'd probably say Romeo, just because of his scoring. We really need a scorer. And also, it would just kickstart Archie's career. Archie's going to be a great coach, but it would just basically push him like 2 or 3 years ahead of where he might be, just because he's got, in his first year, he got a top 5 recruit. And now guys are going to be like, oh, well, dang, Archie got this one guy in this quick of a time with literally 12 months to talk to him about. And it wasn't even like IU was on Romeo's radar in the first place, to where the other coach just picked off where he left off. But exactly, even with Juwan possibly being like a all Big Ten player, all American player, I think Romeo might just bring a little more to the table, possibly, which is really hard for me to say.
Let me just put it to you this way. But Romeo's the top-rated guard in his class. If we go back through the top-rated guards in the previous classes, last year's top-rated guard was Colin Sexton. We obviously know how that panned out. He's going to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft. If we go back the year before that, the top guard in the country was Lonzo Ball. We obviously know how that panned out. We go back to 2015. The top guard was, what's the top guard here? Malik Newman. Obviously, he was at Kansas and really good. And then the second guard was Jamal Murray, who's in the NBA.
I was saying Malik Newman's not even there yet. He's going this year. So
yeah, he's going to be in the NBA this year. He's going to be probably a first-round pick. So
even with and I think, Matt, you and I share more of the same opinion on Lonzo Ball, but it's still, you can't deny he was a top 10, top 5, obviously top 3 pick in the NBA, and he's still got a high ceiling in his NBA career. So yeah, I agree.
He's going to be a good NBA player. Mm-hmm. So these guys that come in, Lonzo Ball, program changer. Colin Sexton, program changer. Romeo Langford, program changer. These are the type of players that come in and catapult you from being a almost NIT team,
yeah,
to a second weekend NCAA tournament team.
And that's all you can ask for, because really, with the crazy NCAA tournament, if you get into the second weekend, that's where it's anyone's game.
Games in the NCAA tournament, that's a great season. You make it to the Sweet 16, that's a great season. Now, if you make it to the Elite 8, that's a special season. You make it to the Final Four, that's a once in like every 10 years season. Are we going to make it to the Final Four next year if we get Romeo and Juwan stays?
Maybe not.
Possible, but matchups have to be there, obviously. And then we have to have somebody else step up. And then also, Devontae Green needs to become almost Danny Green.
Which we'll talk about that more later, but let's wrap up with this last question. Basically, besides Romeo, which other commit are you excited to see?
Oh,
that's a hard question. I agree, because there's a bunch of really great people, which you could go with the top ranked recruit basically in the class. You could go with the position that we need most of.
Right. I would say Finney, because obviously fresh blood, an actual point guard would be kind of nice. Not that Al and Devontae aren't actual point guards, but a pass first Indiana point guard, which kind of reminds me of Yogi. He's just like, yeah. So that's exciting. And then we have Jerome Hunter, who's power forward, basically looks like he plays a lot like Kevin Durant. If I have to compare him to anybody,
Yeah.
he's obviously not Kevin
Yeah.
Durant. I'm
Yeah.
not saying the guy's Kevin Durant, but he's tall, really good shooter, can create his own shot a bit. And he's also another homer, but that's another thing. Demezy Anderson's just a flat out. He's a knockdown, lights out shooter. I don't know if he does anything else, but he shoots the ball, and it looks every time he shoots it looks like it goes in. But the person that I am most excited about is our lowest ranked recruit. I love Jake Forrester. The more I watch of Jake Forrester, the more he reminds me of like a really good backup center in the NBA. Is exactly what he is. He's just a guy that goes out on the floor, gets almost every single rebound, and he may not be able to shoot the ball or shoot free throws, but he's going to try to dunk the ball every single time he has it. And he's an energy guy, and he's really excited to come to IU. Like everything he does, everything he posts on social media is like super pumped up. Like he's super excited, or he's really intense. Like I'm ready for that. Like every time you post on social media, I'm like, I'm ready to run through a brick wall. Like, I'm down. Let's go. So I'm really excited for Jake Forrester to come. I think he's going to be like a diamond in the rough, especially since we have a lack of big guys. The centers.
And as Jeremy said, he's Thomas Bryant 2.0.
Yeah, no, literally, he seems like that. I don't know. He's not a 5-star. Like Thomas was going to be better than him, but over 4 years, he may end up being better than Thomas was. So.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to give, it's not going to be same thing. It's not going to be those high recruits. I'm going to go Race Thompson for the sole reason because he's a recruit.
Already here. He doesn't count.
He does count. Yes, he does. He has not gotten any floor time at all. Yes, he does. He's a recruit. Yes, he's a recruit because he's been here and he's a new guy. He gets to come out. He's going to be a guy that is going to be great to just see literally from day one how much he can do. And that's literally why, because he's been here. He knows the drill now mostly, and now he gets to show himself and he gets to prove himself. He knows how to go through this summer since he didn't get a summer last year and he got here late August basically. So he gets to go through a real summer workout. It's going to be ahead of all the other freshmen basically. So
I mean,
I agree.
I definitely agree. I am as high on Race Thompson as I am on anybody in this new class, if you count him in the new class. As I am as high on him as anybody. In warmups for IU, he might be the best 3-point shooter. I'm not even gonna lie. He every time he shoots it, I think it's going in. He's really good at that. Also, when he reclassified, he was a higher ranked recruit in the same class as Justin Smith. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. That about wraps it up for our 30-second show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you all so much for joining us. Stay tuned through updates on Twitter at the Hoosier Sound, Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube so you can get updates when we go live. Visit our website, thehoosiersound.com, to find all of our information regarding our podcasts, blog posts and stuff. We haven't been able to do that too much recently, which you and I both have to get on that. But as always, send us your questions as the audience. So be sure to comment like we had people today, chat, or send us a message. You can send us at contact@thehoosiersound.com on what questions you have, and we will definitely get them on our next episode. Lastly, if you enjoy the show, please, 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 it really helps. Leave us a review so we can start getting the word out there more. Tell a friend, share our links. It really helps so we can grow our podcast. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.